Hello, my name is Anatoly Motkin. I'm president of StrategEast. And StrategEast is a leading independent institution that develops digital and knowledge-driven economy in Eurasian region. And we're here today for a panel about the cyber bridges. How the digital assists to connect countries together to one region, and sometimes how to connect the regions one to another. First, let me introduce our distinguished speakers. The first is Dr. Sharinee Jagtiani, Senior Officer at GMF Tech, German Marshall Fund of the United States. The other speaker is Chubak from IT Park of Kyrgyzstan, and I think that most of you here know him quite well. The IT Park is one of the main stakeholders in Kyrgyzstan for development of the IT industry here in the country, and they just held a successful KIT forum last week here in Bishkek. The next speaker is Giorgi Tsikolia, Vice President for the EMEA region, Europe, Middle East, and Africa at Lineate, one of the leading international IT companies active these days also in Georgia, and I think that you will tell us more about the Georgian IT ecosystem and the role of the IT in connecting Georgia to other countries. We have here also Shamil Ibragimov, scholar in residence at Legatum Center for Development and Entrepreneurship at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the legendary MIT. And also we have here Olga Skorokhodova, Head of Caucasus and Central Asia, Government Affairs and Public Policy in Google. So, bridges and digital, from your perspective as a think tank and also an organization that cares about the civil society in the region, what's your take on the role of the digital?
So, thanks, Anatoly. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be at CAMCA, and it's been a warm, warm welcome. So the hospitality that we have seen here are some of the things that we don't get to see enough of when we talk and think about Central Asia. And most of these things are written out of the histories of Central Asia, and what we tend to hear more of is geopolitics. And geopolitics is sort of the dominant theme when we talk about this region and how geopolitics has set this region on a destined course. The UN and other organizations classify this as landlocked developing countries who have sort of the constant plagues of limited development and prisoner's dilemma and weak social capacity. And in a sense, that's true. Geography is something that you can't choose. You don't choose your neighbors, you don't choose your reality. But I feel digitalization and technology can tell a different story about this region. You also don't need me to tell you about geopolitics because you probably heard this in the earlier panel. You also probably navigated it on your flight map when you were here. But cyber bridges, as this panel is called, can help sort of reframe this region in a new way and connect this region to the world. What I am here to talk about is how technology can help the region find its own place in the world and also help the region pursue its foreign policy goals or multi-vector foreign policies, which require multiple partnerships to be involved in this region so that the region can benefit from the best possible option. For this to be done, there are many things that Central Asia needs, one of which and the main aspect is to boost the region's digital connectivity, enhancing the speed and safety of its internet infrastructure. We see this as particularly crucial given how quickly this country, this region has taken to digitalization and e-governance solutions. We were extremely impressed with all the initiatives we've seen, not only in Kyrgyzstan, but Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan as well. We have seen how e-governance is helping to deal with several developmental challenges that pertain to childcare, health tech, education, and so on. And we've also seen how this was pushed into motion by the COVID pandemic. And in this way, this region reminds me of my very own country, India. It is important, however, for these solutions to work effectively, and I'm going to reiterate because this is something that we at GMF really stand for, which is a safe, free, and open internet. The internet backbone of this region must be reliable, and it must rest on several options and contingencies. This would not only foster innovation, but also draw foreign investment, provide innovation, and also provide effective crisis response solutions. During our time in the region, and when I say our, I speak for my colleague Dylan Welch, who is from the German Marshall Fund as well. We had the benefit of touring Astana Hub and also attended the very exciting Central Eurasian Venture Forum. From my personal experience, it was like being in Shark Tank. These initiatives help bring the region to the world. And we were impressed by the sister innovation, which is the Silk Road Innovation Fund, which is Astana Hub's organization in San Francisco, which helps the region access different digital markets in Europe and the United States. So these efforts can help Central Asia build a global brand akin to the transformation seen in Eastern Europe in the late 90s and 2000s. To ensure Central Asia achieves its digital potential, the secure internet, digital connectivity, all of these solutions are crucial. And we hope at the GMF to encourage the transatlantic community to play a pivotal role in this development. So this would be my opening statement, and I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you. And Chubak, for Kyrgyzstan, the country that I think was maybe even the first who had decided to have big community of coders that will be integrated into the global supply chain, even before Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan started this digital transformation stage. What's the role of digital transformation to IT industry here specifically in Kyrgyzstan in connecting the country to other countries? As you know, as Azis, who was supposed to be here, said, live in Kyrgyzstan, work with the whole world, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for...
The mic, I think we don't hear him.
Hello? Yeah.
Yep.
Once again, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me for this panel. As you correctly said, Aziz Abakirov, who actually is a leader and a founding person of our organization, was supposed to be here. But I'm, on behalf of Kim, will tell you about our ecosystem and how we were developing. As you said, we were the first park in Central Asia, opened in 2011. And I think we are playing a good role in digital transformation and the infrastructure building in the country. For many years, we were more focusing on outsourcing and outstaffing because this was our model. As you said, there was no enough coders in the region, no technoparks and no ecosystem. And during that time, our, let's say, initiators decided that they will create first the Association of Software Developers. They used, by the way, the best examples of India and also Japan, so that associations usually create and then they lobby to have the infrastructure. And therefore, the idea of high technology park came out, and they opened a special legal tax zone that provides tax exemptions to export-oriented companies, and then IT academies, so we can teach the future generation of coders. And I think now we are playing a good role. We have more and more companies, startups, and within the country, we're developing pretty well. We're trying to expand our companies outside by having different country pavilions, going to different conferences, and also sending our startups to Bay Area and to other places, so mostly to Silicon Valley. On a regional level, we are working very closely with all organizations and all technoparks. So, for example, within the framework of Turkic states, as you know, there is 5 countries of so-called OTC countries, and we actually have already joined platform for digital innovation, and I think we can do the same in CAMCA region. So we already, within that framework, created a digital metaverse and already had some panels tested. There are many initiatives that are coming So to create a fund of Central Asian countries and plus Turkey and I think Azerbaijan, and I think within the CAMCA region, most of them are already in this, let's say, collaboration, and we can do more. In terms of what, from the point of High Technology Park, we are now highly focused on boosting our startup ecosystem by sending the best tech entrepreneurs to Silicon Valley, by funding them, and we're also working closely with Silk Road Innovation Hub that you mentioned earlier. But as you know, they provide mostly the whole ecosystem, and we just opened additionally to that so-called HTP, co-living, co-working space, where people can also stay for short term, for about 2 weeks. And I think the idea is good, collaboration is good, and we're doing our best. And I will let, this is kind of my introduction for the first time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chubak. And now to you, Giorgi. Georgia, as we know, is quite new to be a big player on the IT international map. Just 4 years ago, there was not a single international IT company that was exporting software from Georgia. And today we have, I believe, over 120 international IT companies working from Georgia. And when we say international, it means that also at least 98, almost 100% of the revenues of the company should be regenerated from exports. And the IT exports in Georgia, again, that literally grew up from zero, last year exceeded $900 million. Your company is one of the leaders of this market, and I would be grateful if you could elaborate a little bit about Georgia. And also, it's not landlocked, we know, but it's a small country that became a digital miracle.
Well, thank you. Thank you for such a wonderful question, and I would like to first of all thank organizers for giving me the opportunity to be here in this wonderful city. I think the spirit at which this conference back in the day was inaugurated, of bringing people across the whole region together to discuss ideas, policies, and actions, and bring all of us to the better future. This conference is fully represents that spirit, and I'm grateful to be here. Kind of will be wearing two hats during my presentation. First, probably would be representing the company. The company itself is an American company. It's a U.S.-based, New York-based technology company that has been on the market for more than 10 years. We're a software development company. We've been working with large multinational companies, helping them to solve their technological problems and solutions, finding solutions for more than a decade. Georgia, for us, has been a place of our regional business. Our regional headquarters are located in Tbilisi. Yeah, as a Georgian, as a native Georgian, it's kind of, for me, a double story thing. I'm fortunate by fate or chance to work at a company that considers Tbilisi as a regional center. Well, you mentioned Tbilisi being, and the Georgia being the regional hub for technology. And prior to that, in our previous conversation, the minister asked a question to the audience: what is the digital and digitalization means for everybody? And a lot of people had different opinions, and most of those opinions and the thoughts were, you could combine into one probably single thing, is a development, economic development, most of all. And through digitalization, definitely, even a small country such as Georgia, in terms of the territory and the population, is able to become the part of the global market and use the advantages that the global market provides for individuals. Individuals that have enough skill set, a country that has an infrastructure to connect the local grid to the international grid, and of course, some policies that are in place in order to help the companies and those individuals to flourish in a global market. The combination of those things was the reason why our company has chosen Georgia as the regional headquarters. The policies that the Georgian government has had for years were quite clear. They were easy to follow. And at the same time, they were business friendly to the point where, as you said, 5 years ago, there was no international company providing software development or any type of a technology solutions to an outside world, and today there is more than 100 of those. Overall, in terms of the job growth, 5 years ago, it was 2,000, 2,500 jobs related to the technology. In Georgia today is more than 30,000 jobs. They are direct jobs as a result of those companies entering market. And the size of the overall the technology in the Georgian economy grew to close to 7% of the GDP. And all of that grew during the past 5 years. And of course, beside the policies that the government has, definitely investment into an infrastructure and easy access to an internet. The internet penetration in Georgia is close to 90%. And beside that, having an access to a safe and reliable means of connecting to an outside world is an important part and the place of comfort for international companies. And of course, in sync with that, the third part of that is human resources, an ability to grow in internal talent and have an abundance of talent that is able to provide the type of and the quality of work that the global companies require is always a huge plus. So combination of those things was very important, not only for us, but as you said, for more than 100 companies to enter the market. And the beauty of the whole process is that large companies, they do come to the region. They look at the region from the holistic perspective. Definitely, they chose one or the other country as a place of their main operations, but then gradually they expand to other countries as well. Besides Georgia, we're a good example of that. Besides Georgia, we're in Armenia as well, where we have a growing office. We're in Poland actually as well, where we have a growing office as well, and we're looking to expand into other markets. And more or less, when you look at the policies across and we look at the developments across the wider region, we see that countries following each other in those developments. You can put the representatives of every country across the region, starting from Kyrgyz Republic all the way up to Georgia. And I'm sure that one or two or three policies that the government has had or the local developments, they will come close to each other in terms of ideas and an overall kind of expectations behind that, which is a great thing. That means that the governments are discussing between each other. That means that the private sector has a connection point. And that means that the overall, the whole kind of ecosystem starts to understand what is it required in order for this wide region of ours, geographic-wise, to become a larger player in a global tech industry. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Giorgi and Shamil, to you. We're talking about a very diverse region. We have CAMCA, it's Caucasus, Central Asia, Mongolia, Afghanistan, and we're talking about connectivity. Maybe you will share your take how the connectivity of the region should work, and also based on digital component of these activities.
Thank you. Indeed, the problem is that Central Asia even, I'm not talking about Central Asia, Caucasus, Mongolia, and Afghanistan. Even Central Asia is a very pathologically disintegrated region. One of the most disintegrated regions in the world, beside the fact that Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan are actually in one economic union. But the problem is that, as Ambassador Bzhashvili mentioned today, individual countries are not visible on the global map. And even Central Asia as a region is not visible. There is, like, I'm from academia. I can tell you that the perception of the region in academia is mostly through history, geography, anthropology, and so on and so forth, but they do not consider this part of the world as something innovative, as something that has a huge potential for innovations where something like new may come up. So then the question is, like, how do we actually build this integration? So far, what I saw, it was mostly about government initiatives. And fair enough, government, they can build regional infrastructure. But we can see with this economic union that it doesn't really help a lot. And it's not enough. What we definitely have to think about is what we can do on our level. We don't have, like right now, we don't have representatives of the government, right? It's like mostly private sector, academia, and so on. And we have to think about like how to build the ecosystem, the holistic ecosystem for the region where people freely share their ideas, they interact with each other, where we can transfer funds and so on and so forth. And the question is what actually the approaches might be. And I would like to appeal to the fact that we quite often underestimate such initiatives as like fellowships, as academic programs, but in fact, CAMCA is an outcome of such approach, right? It's like most of the people who are here are graduates of alumni of Rumsfeld Fellowship or other fellowships. And this is, my point is that on our level as NGO, academia, and private sector, we have to think about integration on that level because it brings more innovations. And innovations is not like a buzzword for us nowadays. It's an existential need. I believe that it is naive to expect that there will be any innovations from the government. There will be no innovations because they are synced into the bureaucracy, in operational, daily routine, and so on. But innovation is actually in the minds and the work of the private sector, of entrepreneurs, those who can bring innovations, implement those innovations, and build them, and bring the new technologies. So the question is like how to enhance their capacity to do that. And one of the answers is probably to start some non-governmental regional interactions with academic institutions between the communities, associations. And that's how I believe we can create a very organic way of the regional integration. Because right now, as a citizen of Kyrgyzstan, as a person who lives here most of the time, I'm freaked with the existential threats of the climate change, for example. And for Central Asia is one of the most affected regions in the world by the climate change. And we will face water scarcity. We're facing it now. We'll face the problem of the food security and many other existential threats. And there is no way that we can regulate everything just on the government level and rely on them. It is the time when entrepreneurs and academia have to step in and have to start building some ecosystems where entrepreneurs can share ideas and can bring some new technologies from other parts of the world and apply them here on this land. This is how I see what is the organic integration should look like for our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamil. To you, Olga. Your company is actually sometimes synonym of innovations. When we're talking about Google, it's also synonym of curiosity. But when we talk about this region, and we're talking about people, we're talking about communities, we're talking about civil society like associations, IT associations, and other, and we're talking also about the digital tools to achieve this regional integration. So I would like to hear what's your take from Google perspective. What are the tools to integrate the region more?
Yeah, thank you so much, Anatoly. And I would also like to start by thanking the organizers and CAMCA for bringing us all together. I actually, my name is Olga, and I lead the government affairs function in this part of the world at Google. And I would like to compliment those people who came up with the word CAMCA, actually, or with the format. And I actually think, and here I would argue with you, to be honest, I don't think I agree that governments shouldn't do more. I think governments should do more. And I think it would be really great to see governments interacting at this level, at this CAMCA forum, because I don't know many formats that bring together the Caucasus and Central Asia, and this is maybe something that governments can, borrow with pride from CAMCA as a format of interaction. I don't think that I would surprise anyone, but I want us to think, and I want to talk today about artificial intelligence as one of the tools that can bring the region together. And we've been hearing from colleagues how digital transformation has been really pushing forward in this part of the world. So I think that and I've been also observing this process, really exciting process for several years now. And so I think if to think a little bit, it's not even futuristic, it's actually a reality already, artificial intelligence. But if to think about the next, let's say, frontier of regional integration, I think it should be, and it should be about AI. You just mentioned climate change. Tools powered by AI can help address climate change issues, drive innovative agriculture. In Georgia, for example, I know that there are some tools that are used to produce wine that are AI-powered tools. All of this actually pose, I would say, or has an immense potential for the whole region to drive growth, economic growth, social growth, and even leapfrog, if we think about it strategically. However, we do have, as a region, very good foundation. We have people, very talented people, and we have very young people. That's very important for AI adoption. And that's a feature, let's say, of our region. However, to really seize this AI opportunity that we have, a comprehensive approach is required, and I believe that the governments should play a very strategic role in this, as well as private sector and the civil society sector. And what is also important, it's important for the region to come together, to really embrace this momentum. And now a little bit of a theory, but I hope it will be helpful. We at Google, less than 2 months ago, came out with a paper which is called AI Sprinters. This paper is really, can we please pull out the slide? This paper was developed specifically for the emerging markets like the CAMCA markets, to help policymakers, local policymakers, do the right policies that can support AI-driven development. I would encourage you to scan the code and go and read the report. It's very informative, but I want to stop on 4 points that were highlighted in this report and that we call 4 big game changers, or what are the things, really fundamental things that the government should get right to get the AI potential, to, let's say, convert the AI potential into the reality. 2 of the points we already mentioned, infrastructure and people. Thank you so much, Giorgi, totally agree. And when we talk about infrastructure, yes, that's access to reliable internet, affordable internet, but it's also about cloud. There is no AI without cloud. And once it comes to cloud, governments actually have a very active role to play to drive cloud adoption. I know that very often our region, the CAMCA region, looks at the MENA region, at the Middle East and the Gulf, as, let's say, a polar star in terms of digitization. And if you look at some of the countries where recently Google launched its Google Cloud regions, those are the countries where governments adopted the so-called cloud-first approach, meaning that investment in cloud solutions, not necessarily Google cloud solution, but cloud solution, are being prioritized to the on-prem solution that are already proven to be less secure and more costly. This is where government has a unique role to play. On people, super important to think about AI. Can we please go on to the next slide? Super important to think about, maybe I can do it even myself. Yeah, thank you so much. To think about AI literacy. Remember how by we I mean humankind, in the early 20th century, we're thinking about AI literacy, not AI literacy, just literacy. So AI literacy is just as important. And the 3rd point, what we call technological innovation, and it can mean different things. For the AI age, I think super important is to think about whether the governments make data available to the local startups and ecosystems. I don't think that governments very often realize on how much data they actually have, but how much of this data is not available for the local startup ecosystems, for the local innovation. And why it's important? It's important because if you want to build tools, let's say, to address water scarcity challenge in Uzbekistan and in Tajikistan, you need to have local data. There is no way to do it without it. And it's a job of the government, really, to get this data out. This requires really a novel approach, or let's say a revolution in government's mind on how to treat data in terms of innovation. These 2 points on infrastructure and on modernizing national data systems, I think these are the points where actually it's not only up to the governments. I don't know if we have in the audience international development institutions, but this is also where international development institutions that are very active in this part of the world should invest. And we actually have some ideas laid out in our paper of how this can be structured. Because infrastructure and data systems do require lots of money and investment, and this should be done at the regional level. And last one is about policies. The right policies are important. It all starts with the national AI strategies, and I know that many of our countries are already working on this, and Tajikistan has already published its national AI strategy, but this is very important. So basically, to wrap it up, and I hope we'll have a second chance to talk about it, I think really AI is the next frontier, and it has an opportunity to bring the region together and to put the region on the international innovation map. It requires a really concerted effort from the governments, but also a team effort from all of us. Companies like Google, smaller startups, local tech, but academia and NGOs to come together and really think strategically about this opportunity. I'll stop here and hope I'll have some time later on because we do have an announcement from Google to share. Yeah.
Maybe at the end. let it keep as a surprise. Back to you, Dr. Sharinee. You mentioned different initiatives like Silk Road Hub in Silicon Valley, other ones. But the GMF is also about the civil society. And for digital or IT industry, the civil society organization is IT association. We have KSSDA here in Kyrgyzstan, in some other countries. What do you think should be the role of civil society institutions in developing the digital bridges between the countries?
I think civil society has a core and critical role in every digital development in every country, let alone Central Asia. It's important that as we digitalize, we're aware of the risks that this can involve. It can be risks to people's data privacy. It could be risks to their own sort of well-being. So we need sort of the infrastructure, legal infrastructure also to ensure that the AI technology we use is ethical. We also need to make sure that people have access to their data security and their privacy. So as people are using government services, they are putting a lot of their personal data on these applications. So how does a person think about this? My reading from the region is that a lot of people are kind of they don't really think about sort of the implications of putting their data on this. And this is when, if this region wants to digitalize at the pace that it is digitalizing, it needs to be accompanied with digital literacy and digital privacy discussions. And civil society is the one that kind of starts these conversations. So that's why any effort at digitalization needs to be multi-stakeholder. It can't just be one, like Olga said. It needs to be private sector, NGO, governments. But there is a very important role that they play, and they should be heard.
Thank you so much. And Chubak, you know your colleagues from Uzbekistan, from Kazakhstan, from other countries, and the ID parks, Astana Hub, and on one hand, we are talking about collaboration and about promoting the region as a whole. On the other hand, each country declares, and yes, that we will be the regional hub. So how, on one hand, we construct the bridges? Second, what actually should remain as a competition between the countries, as an internal in the region, but what activities should be conducted together jointly? And even if you look on the bigger region, here we call it CAMCA, in other places called Central Eurasia, to have this region combined, Caucasus, Central Asia, and even Mongolia. What activities should be conducted by you and your colleagues jointly, and why it will make you stronger as a region?
That is a very interesting question. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No?
We do. I don't think that the audience.
I see. I should keep this.
Maybe
Okay.
we have some.
Hello. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have to keep. Yeah, very interesting question. I think, yeah, from one side. Again. From one side, yeah, it's good. I agree that at certain point, Central Asian so-called parks have competition from one side, but also collaboration from the other side. And collaboration started recently, I would say, starting from late 2019. We started to collaborate more, and this is a good tendency. And answering your question, I can say that in region promotion, or in Eurasia promotion, if you include Mongolia, is a collaboration to sell to our, let's say, American or European partners as a region. So the IT is in here, that it's developing, that it's booming. So it's all about cooperation in relation to promotion of the region as an IT destination. From the point of competition, I think there will be some competition, but on the level of small and medium-sized companies. If we talk about bigger companies, let's say 500 Fortune listed companies, they will, if they will come to the region, they will go to every single country, no matter. So they are looking for resources or for the market. And I think, in addition to collaboration, I can also add the market. So Central Asian market is more interesting for international companies to come than Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, or Uzbekistan separately. 80 million population is more interesting. And from the point of promotion and as a market, we can do joint projects. And we can only compete, I think, to a certain level for medium or small-sized companies, because they are very, very scarce in resources, and they will choose exactly one country to operate their operations. And in addition to the previous question, I can also add the community or civil society is very important. This is a case of Kyrgyz Republic. This is a case of, I'm trying to still talk not loudly, but still some problems are happening with the microphone. So in case of Kyrgyzstan, it's our case. So all initiatives are coming from bottom to up, from the community, from the society. The Software Developers Association that we talked earlier, KSSDA, was created. Thank you. The association was created by the community. Then the High Technology Park was created. So all initiatives in Kyrgyzstan are usually coming from the community, and I can say that this is a very soft power. And even recently, the Park on Creative Industries was created on the effectiveness and the example results of the High Technology Park. So this was an idea when Azis Abakirov was and the other partners were creating park to replicate to other sectors of the economy. And I think now it's happening. And now we are having the High Technology Park example on more industries, on creative industry. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chubak. To you, Giorgi. We understand how Georgia became part of the global IT development map, and we also recognize the important role of the industry within Georgia. But still, do you identify need in Georgia to be part of a bigger region? And what do you think the opportunities for the IT industry to take a lead in this inter-region coordination collaboration?
I hope.
Yep.
Mine is fine, right? Yeah. Well, colleagues mentioned the importance that either private sector plays or the public sector plays in this process. I would probably agree with both in this case and say that the combination of two is something that will bring a success at the end of the day at a much faster pace. And when we talk about success, for me that's very simple. It means jobs. And all the conversation that we have around us and the interest why the general public should have about the digitalization and all the policies that we're discussing and those nice words, at the end of the day, it translates into a simple thing. How many jobs are being created, how stable those jobs are, how high paid those jobs are, and long-term, the availability of those jobs as well. For smaller countries in terms of the population, digitalization and development of the technology is probably the main goal for, in order to create those jobs. And in terms of the timing on how fast they would be created, I don't think there is any industry beside technology that can provide those. And technology in Georgia and the growth of the jobs in Georgia is a great example of that. As I've said, during the past 5 years, the number of the jobs that were created by technology in Georgia grew by 1,200%. And average salaries in tech industry in Georgia are 3 times as high as the average salary in the country. Beside that, it affects migration as well. All of us, and I'm sure that we had a number of the local government representatives today, and one of them actually mentioned the migration as an issue. If you want to keep your best talents in the country, you have to offer them opportunities. And the best opportunities for high-paid jobs is in tech. So that's kind of a very simple formula. You want to make sure you have your best talents in the country. You want to make sure that the country itself is a part of the global market. And you want to make sure that the global companies see you as the place where those jobs are long-term. And their operations in the long term are safe, transparent, and easy to understand and to manage. Sometimes it's hard to do. Sometimes once you get on the right course, it's easier to kind of build on that. And even it's easier when the regional countries that understand each other, that have a certain shared history, and it's easy for them to communicate with each other, can sit at the table and come up with the policies that allow large multinationals to think of a larger whole as a region of region as a larger whole. So that would be my suggestion. There are a number of the platforms for that I think are very useful. And yeah, in addressing those issues, I mean, you look across the region, and besides even technology, I mean, just by coming to Bishkek first time, I realized how close Tashkent is to Bishkek, right? How close is Almaty is to Bishkek. You look at those three cities together across 3 countries, that's like what, market of 8-9 million people? That's a huge market. Similarly, when it comes to Georgia, besides Tbilisi, 300 kilometers is Yerevan, another million population. Baku is 45 minutes flying. So you have to utilize the opportunities that the geography gives you, an economy of scale, in order to attract together with the policies large multinationals, and then make sure that the geography gives you a possibility to create jobs.
I'll address you another brief follow-up question. But you're a big boss, you're a vice president, and you're responsible for the entire region. So you could do some things in a manual mode, like you have office in Tbilisi. Do you consider, yes, like after visiting Central Asia, you know this region also before the current visit, do you plan your activities as Lineate to be more like dispersed between the countries and not only Georgia-centric activity?
Of course not. As I said, I mean, we're a great example of that. We have an office, I mentioned earlier, in Armenia, and we are looking closely at Uzbekistan as our next destination for opening a regional office. And definitely, this would be a first step for us to look at the local market and start to study the local market and understand what the local market can offer. But overall, I think I would speak for larger companies in this case. When we look geographically, we never look at the one specific country. It's always easier to look at it across the geographies and see what the next 5 or 10 years can bring in terms of development for every company. And for us, that geography not only goes towards all of Central Asia, but towards the MENA region as well. So we are thinking of additional office in Emirates as well, and yeah, alongside Eastern Europe. So that's kind of a large geographic spread. But the first definitely is South Caucasus, and after South Caucasus, Central Asia. But governments have to do a lot. I mean, connectivity is an issue. High-speed internet is an issue. And safety. In our company, all our clients, there is a lot of internal information, and there is a lot of safety-related issues that we have to take into consideration when we enter any country. And the requests and the requirements from our clients is very high. And just to make sure that we follow those guidelines and we make sure that that our clients are safe and the job that we do is safe, we have to make sure that every country we enter, local policies and our ability to serve our clients from there is fully in line with our security requirements.
Thank you. Shamil, too, you're talking about the role of the governments in the inter-region collaboration, but also about the private sector. And what do you think should be, what should be the incentive for private companies to start thinking about regional collaboration and not only each country by country?
Thank you, because that's exactly the question probably I wanted to ask, to answer, and to make remarks to Olga's comment. That my point was actually not just about that the government should do less. The government should do what it should do, and it should be.
They should do more. That's
It should do more, but it should do what it has to do. And it should be demand-driven, driven by the demand of the civil society, of the entrepreneurial community, not what comes to their mind they believe needs to be done, right? And so here is the answer. You know, I just recalled one interesting story. In 2014, Sberbank of Russia organized a conference in Moscow when German Gref asked Professor Graham, emeritus professor of MIT, he posed the question. He said, why Russia, that has tremendous potential in science, fail to create really global products, fail to create real strong global unicorns? And Professor Graham said, you want to have milk without a cow. You want to have global products, you want to have unicorns, but at the same time, you oppress freedom of expression, you limit the access to information, you oppress diversity, and you intolerant tolerance. But this is exactly the cow that gives a milk in the face of unicorns, in the face of global products. And my point is that, to answer your question, my point is that we have, as a civil society, as an entrepreneurial community, shape a clear demand to the government what we expect them to do. Not just to rely that they will supply us something that they believe we need. No, we have to change the nature of our relations. We have to demand and we have to pose what exactly we want our governments to do. It's very unusual probably for our part of the world when historically we accept the fact that the governments tell us, okay guys, this is what we're gonna do for you. No, not anymore. This is the time when we have to use innovations, and innovation is intolerant to oppression.
Thank you so much. And to you, Olga, before we wrap up, we worked together on a project of how to upskill the government officials from the entire region on AI tools developed by Google. And it was a great attempt and also experience of bringing the region together and to bring them the awareness that thanks to your technologies, they could work together and actually could share the best practices. And I know that you have another announcement that also will lead the region to closer collaboration. Please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anatoly. And indeed, just before I move to announcement, right, I just wanted to say that we have a very, very nice audience that have been, listening to us so carefully, not asking any questions or not interrupting. But I expected that some of you, after my kind of quite theoretical talk, ask, okay, what is Google doing? You have 4 pillars, what are you guys doing, right? So yeah, and it's to answer this question. But just before I do that, a little bit again of a corporate talk. Once it comes to AI, our motto at Google is bold, responsible, together. Bold means really proactively looking for issues that can be resolved with the help of AI. Responsible, developing these tools in a responsible, privacy and secure way, and together. Together comes to what my colleagues have been talking about, is that from all the fronts and walks of life, we need to come together to really seize this opportunity. And I'm happy to announce what Google is doing, a new program actually that we are launching together with StrategEast that is called Build with AI for Sustainable Growth. We are announcing it today. And it's a big pleasure to bring this news here at the CAMCA Forum. This program is it's actually the first program that we are launching that will unite developers from the Caucasus and from Central Asia. And the purpose is really to equip developers from our diverse region with the tools powered by our most developed and most advanced large language model, which is called Gemini, so that those developers can come together. And at the end of this program, which will take shape in the form of hackathon, to actually develop solution on sustainable development issues. And I would like to invite, first of all, developers from our region to sign up. We'll have the announcement published by StrategEast with the links where we can register. And secondly, I actually wanted to invite also the governments and the civil society from the countries come and support us, to be part of that program and share what are actually those issues that our developers, participants of that program can actually work on so that it would be a tangible result for all of us. Again, thank you so much, Anatoly and the StrategEast team for partnering with us. And this is a very exciting moment for us to continue driving, I would say, the upskilling in the region, but also really at the same time bringing the region together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So thank you to our guests, and thank you again, the organizers, for this great event, and thank you.